Welcome back, everyone, to the Quake Pro League as we are now halfway through the matches and we're going to our fourth series of the day. And the next one will be a very good one between Tox and Av3k. And Flea, I'm sure you'll be looking forward to this one as well.
Oh yeah, this is going to be one of the best games we're going to see all day. toxjq the Terminator got off to a bit of a rough start last week, didn't secure a single map, going up against Maestro Razy, but we know what he's capable of. On the other hand, you have Av3k, the Polish prince, an incredibly talented player known traditionally for his ultra-aggressive playstyle, so when these two collide, it's going to be fireworks.
Normally, Tox has a similar style to Av3k, but it depends on his aim on the day. We know that he's got one of the best LGs, definitely debatable, but he's definitely up there, probably in the top 5 in my opinion, in terms of his tracking aim. Now, the problem is the fact that, you know, your gun skill's got to flow through with your movement, doesn't it? And if you miss some of his shots, then he will end up being a little bit more passive than he would like to be. But it depends though, because against a player like Av3k, yeah, sure, he may also have his inconsistencies sometimes. But, you know, lately, over the last few months, Av3k's been playing really, really well and really solid. So I feel like Tox now's got to be on the top of his game here against the endpoint man.
Absolutely, I think that Av3k probably wasn't all too happy with his performance back at the Quake World Championships, didn't get all that far through the bracket, whereas during stage 4 he just played the roof off. He beat the likes of Cooler and toxjq 3-0, and that is the last time these two went up against each other. It was an extremely convincing and one-sided victory for Av3k, so I think that after his performance back at the finals at the Quake World Cup, he just really wants to show the world what he's capable of, and he's gonna come out swinging today.
He should come out swinging indeed, but it depends how Tox plays. And what I like about Av3k is the fact that with his ultra-aggressive style, like you mentioned before, he doesn't really change his style either. He either plays his own game or no one's. You know, it's either, you know, it's up to him what he wants to do, really. I know some people with their defensive play style, or maybe a style in particular which they're not comfortable with, you know, they kind of change it themselves. They change their own style a little bit to kind of make up for certain scenarios. But Av3k, he just sticks to his guns every single time without fail. But I feel like we're not really going to see any of that. We know what both these players are like. They both have a similar style in terms of how aggressive and how calculated they want to try and make something happen, especially with some of the engagements. So we should expect some really fast-paced matchups on all 3 maps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what the maps and the picks and bans are as we've got them ready for you. First one is going to be Ruins of Sarnath, where we are going to see Galena, played by toxjq, go up against Av3k on the Stroke. So Tox unable to use his favorite crouch sliding mechanic that he's so well known for. Second map will then be Corrupted Keep, where we see the Doomslayer go up against the Eisen. And then finally, to wrap things up, it will be Visor up against the Ranger.
I feel sorry for Tox a little bit because he loves his Anarchy. It's definitely one of his favourite champions, and Av3k had to ban it on Corrupted Keep, didn't he, of all places. But Eisen as well, we don't really see too much Eisen nowadays on Corrupted Keep. We used to see it maybe, you know, in the early stages when Eisen was released during the first 6 months, I'd say. But nowadays you don't really see it too often on Corrupted Keep. And to see it now, it's kind of a breath of fresh air, really, because we kind of class it as off meta now and again, depending on the circumstances. With the Strog as well, and that should be a very good pick for in terms of Ruins. But even on the last map, a Visor on Awoken. So Tox has definitely got something up his sleeve. Maybe he's expecting some shenanigans from the Ranger of Av3k.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting as well that neither player going for any light or heavy champions, both just sticking to the medium ones through and through. We're starting with them and we're ending with them. Now, Corrupted Keep is also going to be interesting. toxjq with the Doomslayer, there's quite a few neat little spots where you can use the double jump to great effect. And Av3k is going to be running the Eisen with, of course, that deployable turret. Gives a lot of information and also helps with the damage.
It's weird we didn't see Eisen too much on Corrupted Keep nowadays in comparison to before, but I think everyone kind of got used to how he plays, the style. We know the turret's more used for information on that map compared to actually dealing too much damage. But then again, it can use be as a shield as well, depending on what kind of position you're in, especially like if you're at LG or top mid or hanging around rockets. It feeds a lot of good information and makes you realize exactly where you want to be and what different routes and rotations you want to make throughout the course of the map. So yeah, a lot of off-meta picks here and there, but it should be very exciting to see. But it all depends on Tox. We know that mechanically and fundamentally he is gifted by no means least, but the only problem is he does struggle to adapt sometimes. You know, when it comes to reading his opponent, he makes some very good reads sometimes, but I always feel like it only comes or maybe even occurs when he gets some damage done and his gun skill's on point, because I feel like without his gun skill, his movement doesn't really follow through with it.
Yeah, and I think that one of the other issues that Tox sometimes faces is that he wants to force the situations when the time just isn't right yet.
Yeah.
You see this so often. Tox will drop one frag and he just immediately charges right back in with nothing but the basic shotgun or one weapon he can pick up, trying to make the refrag happen. And he will try that again and again and again. And before you know it, he's 5 points behind where he only should have dropped a single frag. So Tox, restraint is going to be one of the key words if he wants to take down his opponent.
A lot of these players earlier could have had a bit of restraint. Hopefully Tox won't follow that clause and at least be able to restrain himself in certain scenarios. Like he said, he does tend to try and trade frag when it isn't necessary. But we'll see how things go. As Av3k waiting to contest at that heavy, and it seems like Tox won't be having anything to do with it. But Tox is just waiting patiently at the moment above to see if he could try and get that mega, but Av3k will be trying to push through. Tox is standing his ground. He knows that the mega is up, but he's trying to keep him back anyway. But look at this, Av3k is trying to go for the mega. Beautiful rockets and rail earlier. The LGs come through, and somehow, some way, all the damage caused by Tox helped him to get that mega. But we're not too sure if it's delayed enough so that Av3k may or may not have heard. We'll see. But the gun skill is definitely following suit. He's got Av3k trapped here, but the beautiful rockets from him, but it doesn't matter as Tox made a ridiculous rail shot of his own. He's going to try and go for him on spawn, gets to first. He's going to be looking to try and go for the second, but as you can see there, he gets away in the tri-bolt room. And Av3k surely needs to try and back away, but he can't at this moment in time as Tox is all over him.
Jumping straight on through, barely missing the mega. Toxic 2-0 already. His positional plays have been really strong this game. That is how he got that first frag, holding down the doorway, gatekeeping the entrance to the mega, and just completely shutting Av3k down. And then those beautiful rockets on that small, narrow walkway where you've got no room to really dodge. That's what set him up for a good frag. Now Toxic, bringing it today. This is looking promising. If you're a Tox fan, he's got to be careful though. Railable for the time being. Luckily for him, he's got that totem to work with. Av3k still trying to apply pressure, but I don't think he's in any shape to contest for the heavy as well. He has to bide his time a bit more, and indeed, will just give up the item. Nice little rail. Tox looking the wrong way, still outstacking his opponent, but Av3k is starting to work on the rebuild.
Tox now, his rails have been phenomenal, as well as the rest of his weapons in his arsenal in terms of aim. But Tox still standing his ground, having a little look to see if he's Av3k's trying to pick up the lights, which he isn't going to be the case, but leaves a totem there anyway to feed himself some information later on if Av3k gets a bit desperate and pushes over that light armor. But Tox still got full control of the items, timing spaced out enough for him to contest both. And Av3k is in a lot of trouble. Tox isn't even playing particularly fast. It's just the fact that his aim has just been on point and he's just abusing the map geometry on so many different ways. But he needs to try and make something happen here if he wants to go for the mega. It looks like both players were coming out with the LG. The rail did come through, but it just wasn't enough as Av3k gets that first frag on the board.
That rail was just about the best thing that Toxic could have done in that situation. He just went for the burst damage to finish it off. If he had stuck on the LG, he might have hit a few cells, sure, maybe the 20-30 damage, but that rail, it's a bit risky, but you know you're done for anyway, so why not go for the switch and do that last little blast. Now things are all tied up 2-2 Av3k, managing to get himself onto the mega. This should be his frag. Toxic has got nothing other than the tribal to work with. Av3k, why? I don't understand why Av3k played that so passively. He could have just gone in hyper-aggressively, having all the weapons to his name, having the better stack, and Tox with nothing but the tribals. That should have been a frag for the lowest player, but fortunately for him, showed a bit too much respect, and then the tribal ultimately did end up hitting hard.
Yeah, it was the disrespect flea. We haven't seen much of that today, have we, really, in all fairness? But it's definitely a little bit of a weird case. But Av3k now still standing his grounds, making sure he contests to that heavy, which he has done, taken a fair amount of damage there, but Tox comes out on top with a huge stack still. and this is big trouble for Av3k. Tox here could easily increase his lead if he finds the right engagement. Manages to catch him just a little bit. Only tickled him with a small amount of damage, but is seeing if he's going to go through the telly or back through. He's lost track here, but Tox is going to have a look around to see if he is in that rail room. Finds him straight away. Surely this is a great time for him to try and push. Misses the rail and decides to back away for now. But saying that, Pika comes in, been wasted. Av3k still manages to contest the heavy, but I don't think it's going to be enough here. Look at that LG from Tox. Cleans up, extends his lead 4-2. Could be 5-2 depending on how he can try and reach out here as he bounces up, but he's not in a good position to fight. May have to back off here. Maybe even try and contest the Mega if he can, but that tri-bolt could do a huge amount of damage and still cleans him up. 2 rails in the row. That was phenomenal from Tox.
Beautiful shots from the Swedish Terminator indeed. Can he come out on top once again? He's got the weapon advantage, managing to steal away the heavy as well. Looked like Av3k was going to be the one taking that after that initial scuffle with the LG. toxjq, he had the better weaponry, was able to switch to the rockets, bound his opponent, steal away the item and get the frag to boot. And now Tox is looking pretty solid, should be able to steal away the Mega. Heavy though, that might be a different story altogether. Does Av3k feel confident defending this? Little less so after taking a lot of damage right there. It's LG all MG. Can he?
Oh, 6 HP left.
He misses the rail, yeah.
But let's be honest, if you're not getting into an LG engagement with Tox, it's pretty much suicide at that point.
Yeah.
But Av3k backs away anyway. They both had similar LG accuracy, both had similar stack. But Tox is still looking to push on. He's only on 10 HP, but even then, Av3k isn't available. Tox needs to be careful. Takes the wrong path. Av3k heard him. 6-3 now. So we've seen Av3k plenty of times on Ruins make some ridiculous comebacks, haven't we, Flea? And I feel like with 3.5 minutes left, he definitely can, and it wouldn't surprise me even if he did. Tox hasn't got the armor, he's only got the health, gets the light for now, for the time being, but even then, he's pinned down in this light area. There's not really too much he can do. Surely Av3k can get a frag here, but he's getting LG'd a massive amount, and Tox still manages to be able to stay alive, but Av3k still got a little bit more armor, but as I say that, Tox down to a sliver of health. Av3k himself gets the Mega and will get the light too to boot. So not looking too good for Tox, but in terms of scoreline, he's doing okay.
Definitely some shaky LG from Av3k right there. Should have been able to clean up the frag. I think this is the second time he had a good opportunity to take things home. He didn't need that small armor, but he's picking it up regardless because he knows that could help deny toxjq the resources he might need in the future. And now we're going to see the passives really come out and play. Strog, of course, passive ability of the crouch slide has got the increased mobility that should help him catch up and make this comeback happen. But of course, he has to deal and get through that infamous lightning gun that toxjq wields so expertly.
Both players doing similar damage to each other the last couple of minutes, but as I say, that Av3k with nail and then the rail combo to boot was very nice, but have to try and catch him on spawn if you can. 2 minutes left here, and Av3k is more than capable of doing this. He's done it against Kilson, he's done it to one other opponent in the past, but can he do it against Tox from the back foot? It's only on 41 HP, gets to heavy, so it makes life a little bit easier for him here, but it still needs to heal up to his default stack. But then again, so does Tox. Tox looking to try and engage this, to try and force out so that he can contest the Mega, which he has done. But the pig comes in, doesn't really do too much damage because Tox is still in a position to take this fight.
Those Tox rockets were just huge earlier. Av3k couldn't make it a foot through the choke point without taking disastrous amounts of damage, sending him back to the drawing board and allowing toxjq to steal away the Mega. And now, just over a minute left. 2 frags to go. Absolutely possible, but Av3k, he has to start hitting, and hitting his opponent hard. He's done a fair bit more damage than his opponents, but the items have been mainly going towards the Swede. Peeker, unsuccessful. I like this play from Tox, just holding down the area, buying himself time. Good rail as well. Now Av3k actually in trouble. Both players low. He's not gonna go for it. That one rail changed his mind, knowing that if he runs into a gauntlet of a rail, it's all over. He needs to stay alive. Mega will spawn. Should be able to get that item as well. He doesn't need items, he needs frags. None of those bullets, none of the nails connecting. That might be it.
I think it could be 20 seconds left remaining. Not only is Tox good with the LG, but he's also an expert in Ring Around the Rosie. Possibly even, you know, taking himself down there, but only 12 seconds left. Av3k could actually make a go of this. Only got 10 seconds left remaining. He's going to try and push in and see if he can get the flank around, but it's probably going to be a little bit too late. It's right in front of him. 5 seconds left. Can he take him down? Yes, he does. And ties things up 5-all. Looks like Flea, we're going to go straight into some death.
That LG, the tracking, phenomenal. We've been talking about Tox's aim, the lightning gun a lot, but Av3k showing that he absolutely can brawl it out and keep up. Beautiful aim right there. And now Tox is on the back foot. Av3k picking up the heavy, picking up the mega. Nice and stacked. Well, he's got the peeker at the ready, as well as that standard mobility boost. Toxic might get stuck here. One rail will do it. Misses the kill shot though. Toxic still lives to find another day, but how much longer will that be?
At this rate, could be fighting for only another minute. His stack is abysmal at this stage, but going through that totem and taking some of the engagements early, it's not looking too good. Yeah, sure, fair enough, Tox gets the mega. Av3k has taken away all his armor and some of his HP from that last row on the mega, so this is a perfect chance for Av3k to push in. Surely this could be the frag. Oh, just barely misses, but surely he's going to be cleaned up now. Yes, he does. And being down 6-3, then up 6-5, that was a great way to finish things off. I said it earlier, Av3k has got a thing about making these comebacks on Ruins, and he's done it once again. And look at the damage difference as well, about 500 between the two, even though Av3k's got a tiny bit more item control. I think only probably about one more item in comparison. But phenomenal stuff. Like, Tox was playing really well and out of his mind anyway, but Av3k, so near but so far.
Toxic, he came out swinging, strung together a lot of frags in the early stages of the game. Toxic fans rejoicing all around the world. But then ultimately, Av3k managing to turn things right back around, holding his ground. I thought it might have gone wrong a few times. Toxic, he had some of those opportunities that he didn't capitalize off enough. Same can be said for Av3k, of course, but he did come out victorious in the end. And here, as you mentioned yourself, 6-2 of a lead for Toxic. Tremendous plays from Av3k to still bring it back. That shows a lot of mental fortitude. Of course, this man has been around the block, a top-tier competitor, a veteran Quaker, and he's showing it. Keeping himself composed, and look at that LG. That was just absolutely filthy right there, and he needed to hit that amount of damage too, or Toxic would have just run down the clock.
I think the key point you made there about the mental, you know, the fortitude of how to actually control your mindset. I do feel like as you do get a bit older, you can control your mentality a lot easier in comparison to when you're a bit younger. So when you've got two of these players who've been in the scene for a very, very long time, and they've got a very calm and collected mindset, you know, anything can happen. And that's why you see a lot of these close games, these ties between these players. But then again, when you've got weapons like the LG or the rail, you've got to have a very calm shot as well. You know, you've got to have a calm mindset when you're at least shooting it sometimes. But yeah, you can see there that both these players had a steady aim, had a steady mindset going into this. But for Av3k to come back again, it's a map like Ruins. I'm not surprised. He's done it twice before. He's done it for a third time, and just barely manages to scrape through, not just a sudden death, but for that map win. And these are the stats here. With the Rockets, he got 46%. Well, 31% could be a little bit better, but it doesn't matter anyway, as he took the W, which is what he desperately needed. And then we'll be going to the second map very shortly, which should be another cracker of a game, Flea.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This time around, in the end, it really came down to mobility, as it was Av3k who had the faster and more agile champ, and I think that is going to play a big role in the next map too. This is going to be Corrupted Keep, where it'll be Toxic running the Doomslayer, so of course he's got that Berserk, that instant speed boost, as well as the double jump that can be so powerful around that mega area of the map. A lot of nice little jumps you can do, go up the bounce pad, reverse your course instantly. But on the other hand, of course, Av3k is running the ice and the turret, lots of damage if it catches you off guard, and it also just gives a whole lot of information as to where your opponent is. So pretty balanced matchup. Toxic this time has got the slight edge when it comes to the mobility, but Av3k should be able to deal more of the damage.
Yeah, there's going to be no Strog here either, so I mean, mind games at the peak here anyway. We've seen that quite a few times on Corrupted Keep. So it's going to be purely on combat skills. And I think with these two going at it head to head, it's going to be phenomenal to say the least. We're going to have seen an incredible game coming up next. But like, you know, Ruins, you thought that was good. I think this one is going to be an absolute slugfest going in. But how do you feel in this matchup? You saw how Av3k was playing. He was slowly improving as the map progressed in the second half. Do you feel like Tox has a better chance in this matchup?
Difficult to say because it was such a close game, and Corrupted Keep is always, we keep saying this, right? It's a map you'd have to take on its own because things can get out of control so quickly. Based on what we saw, I would still somewhat favor Av3k, but toxjq definitely has a fighting chance, especially if he can come out and start the way he did the previous map and then just keep it going, which is very possible on Corrupted Keep. We could see some pretty huge scorelines in favor of either player.
I'd be curious about the eyes and the turret placement as well. You know, to me, the turret, it depends where he's placed, which information gets fed, if he can do any damage or tank the damage. It's very questionable to see exactly where it's positioned and how he's going to position himself. There might be a time where Av3k may even just hold certain parts of the map and use the turret as bait. We don't know. We'll have to see. I'm sure he's got some shenanigans up his sleeve like he did in that first map. But going to the second map now, and we'll see what Av3k is up to here. And as you see, they managed to get the heavy, has the shotgun, had to try and feed himself some info when necessary, but it doesn't matter. He already knows he's in that LG area going into Red Room shortly.
I'm also curious about how Av3k will approach the turret. Some players, they just put it down the moment they have it and just wait it out. Others, they wait for the middle of a fight, as Av3k has been doing now. toxjq, though, taking down the turret and doing enough damage to send his opponent back, but Av3k gets positioning on the heavy, and that beautiful fly-by rocket is going to make Tox think twice about chasing that one down. Now Av3k, slight stack advantage, but if I am not mistaken, Av3k indeed does not have the lightning gun yet, and this Corrupted Keep is one of the few maps where you can really play an item, or not just an item denial game, but also a weapon denial. So risky. Get yourself onto that LG, because it's difficult to get out, but hang on! What? The direct to the face into the rocket right on by hitting the wall behind his opponent? toxjq was not expecting that one in a million years.
Well, this is the thing with the turret, though, you know, depending on its placement, it doesn't need to do any damage or, you know, just feed you information, but at least if it's enough to hold your ground, and like you said before, with the weapon denial, that's absolutely huge, especially with the rockets, because it's so important on this map. But then again, so is the LG, so is the HMG. You know, every weapon is vital, especially so you haven't got a rail to try and do any chip damage. It looks like Av3k is pushing in very aggressively here, taking a lot of damage from Tox. I'd be surprised if Tox even gets away with this, and the shotgun comes through in the end anyways. Av3k extends his lead to 0. Got a few health orbs here and there, but Av3k could be maybe trying to try and push in here, but the turret doesn't really do too much. It's just to see if he tries pushing in. The HMG does a lot of damage on the other hand, but Av3k's only on 17 HP, and I think Tox knows from the screaming, of course, there's not too much time left to live, but the Mega is definitely going to help him reach to almost Tox's similar stack. But if he goes for the heavy as well, questions are going to be asked. But Av3k's still doing a great job just keeping him at bay with the HMG. So as you can see, Av3k needs to try and get away if he can, but Tox has always been on his toes the entire time and not really giving him much room to breathe, especially with all this pressure.
The primary weapon for both of these players, the one that they use to get most of their damage, has been the heavy machine gun, which is something you see so rarely, which just shows the kind of game that this has been so far. Not that many really close engagements, but just a lot of chip down to the heavy machine gun, catching your opponent off guard, and then just coming out on top in that long distance fight. And it looks like Av3k manages to break the stalemate. He's the first one to do so, secures himself both major items, and it will amount to a frag. toxjq unable to get out of the room. He is in a bad spot now, and that is the snowball effect that you can get on this map. toxjq baited into going for the rocket. Takes a jump for it. This should be another frag for Av3k. Luckily for toxjq, his two health bubbles helping him out, but surely he will drop once again, actually helping Av3k with a bit of a horizontal rocket jump straight towards the heavy. Not what he intended to do, for sure.
Absolutely not. It worked out in the end for Av3k, but gets to heavy anyway. Tox seriously needs to back off. I'm surprised he even stood. I don't know, maybe he assumed that Av3k's a lot weaker than that, but I wouldn't think so anyway. Surely Tox didn't know approximately how much HP he had left. And nail gun comes in and does a fair amount of damage to Av3k here and there. Gets the light, but it's not going to help enough as Tox now gets taken down once again. 7-0 now in favor of Av3k. Gets the next light. Makes matters worse as the fact that he's going to try and get the next heavy, which he does do. And now he could easily just push up now. Tox is kind of losing it a little bit. It seems to be pushing out. You know, we spoke about it earlier in the pre-show before the first map. The fact that Tox does kind of have a tendency to go for that trade frag. Okay, he's got it now, but at what cost? You know, 1 for 2. It's not worth it.
On the other hand, though, this is not a map where you can make those decisions on your own. Many of those were not Tox his own doing. He was just forced into a fight off the spawn because Av3k is playing such an aggressive play. And Av3k, really a complete package right now, reading the spawns perfectly, the aim, it is sublime. I also love how Av3k has been using the turret. He doesn't just place it down anywhere waiting to get some few points of damage or maybe a bit of information, but he waits just before the fights or during the fights and then uses it to kind of block off maybe an escape route, stop toxjq from dropping onto an item or coming through a doorway. So Av3k really using turrets with some grand strategies in mind, and now the game is just really getting out of hand for toxjq. Can he get it? No, he even goes for the berserk, the punch, but the shotgun makes quick work of that as Av3k extending his lead ever more.
This is a lot more one-sided than we expected. toxjq trying to do everything he can, but like you mentioned earlier, even on spawn, it's not the fact that he's trying to make the right choice or the wrong choice, it's the fact that he's pinned down anyway. Like earlier when he spawned on Banana going up to Rockets, the fact that Av3k just slow played that and then made noise as soon as he saw his opponent was just masterclass and very standard as well. Av3k's just trying to play mind games with him and continue his lead and extend it as much as he can. Already 14-1 with 4 minutes left. The turret is not helping in any way, shape or form. Will he be able to clean this up? Almost, but Av3k needs to back away. He's only on 27 HP, gets the Mega. Tox knows he's in the world of danger, especially if Av3k gets this light and he has the heavy machine gun to back himself up a little bit more. One more shot should do it, and there we go. Tox was in a tough, hard place, couldn't really do much there. He'll be waiting for the next light, which he grabs, and then heavy will come up in the next 5 seconds. The question is, will he be able to contest it well enough, as he does have the turret there in place to help in case that does happen, but doesn't matter. Tox has got it, gets the second frag on the board, but even with 3.5 minutes left here, Flea, I think it's going to be too little too late.
I'm inclined to agree. Av3k is gonna get himself another frag with the rockets right there. Mega will be his reward for winning that engagement. And now, if there's any map in the pool that you can get 14 frags, make that 15 frags in quick succession, it is Corrupted Key. But this time, I just don't see it happening. 3 minutes left to work with. toxjq is gonna get himself a frag though. Av3k taking a little bit of a dip in the lava right there. Doesn't work out for him at all. toxjq starting to chain together a few of these frags, but he's gonna need a lot more than just a few, and Av3k makes his stand, is the first one to get onto the rockets and just holds his ground. Beautiful place right there from the Polish player.
I think that's the main thing. Even though you made the assumption you've lost due to a huge score margin, I think it's always best to keep the score respectable, because you don't want to give your opponent too much of a momentum-based mentality, you could say, going into the second map. But that's what Tox is trying to do. He is trying to at least catch him in some way, shape or form. Even if he knows that he won't be able to take down this next map, at least he can make the score a bit more respectable than what it could be. But as you can see, 20-5 at the moment. Tox it's trying to inflict so much damage, but it's just too little too late here. Av3k's going to try and extend his scoreline a little bit more. 2 minutes left, 21-5 already.
Yep, this is something we've seen quite a bit on this map in particular. It's the nature of the map. You can't really think too much about it, especially after how close that first map was. Sometimes, you know, things just get out of control and they run away. It's just how it happens on a small map like this, where you can very easily read and predict your opponent's spawn and then punish them the moment they reappear. And that is what Av3k did very successfully time and time again. And of course, as we discussed earlier, Tox is not really the kind of player who, off the respawn, is just going to hide. He's not the kind of player to run and just stick to himself, trying to get himself slowly but surely stacked right back up for another offensive. So he often stands his ground, takes the fight like just there, and then he will drop another frag. Now what we're seeing from Tox right now, it is great, some good solid plays, but it's too little too late. Looks like endpoint Av3k will be the one to secure the victory. 2-0 to begin with. We've still got one more map to go.
That's right, the endpoint man, the Polish Punisher himself, Av3k, looking flawless, not even just this map, but throughout the entire series. That comeback, definitely a detriment of what could come and follow on throughout this series, and he's continued on very, very well. Tox put up a very, very good fight, but even then, the scoreline doesn't say the story really. Even if you look at the damage dealt, you can see there's only 1,000 damage between them, and Tox tried to do everything he could to keep him at bay, but Av3k was having absolutely none of it. And look at that though, Av3k, 46% with the LG after firing 1,200 shots. That is absolutely unreal. And you can see it's been on form today.
Oh yeah. And that just shows the amount of pressure that Av3k applied to Tox and just how good his positioning was, right? Because we keep talking about how Tox is one of the best LG users in the entire game. But if you look at this matchup, Toxic hit 26% LG, which must be a record low for Tox, but it's all because Av3k was just so dominant on the map, shutting him down constantly, never giving Toxic a good position where he could comfortably use that LG to its full potential. So really solid plays from the Polish Prince right there. Toxic was just outclassed and outgunned for much of that map.
It is quite easy as well to, when you actually try and catch someone on spawn, for your mind to get a little bit lazy and then get there a little bit too late. But you saw from there that Tox was taking the same path every single time he spawned. If he spawned on the HMG, he'll go up the bounce pad straight away. If he spawned in Banana, he'll go straight to Rocket. If he spawned in Red Room, he'll go for the LG. He did the same routine, the same rotations every single time. And the thing is that Av3k knew that, or maybe it could be the fact that with Tox, he's used to people standing on the Mega and then, like, you know, expecting to go up on the bounce pad. Maybe he's used to people going towards the heavy and him stopping him and then getting the shotgun, you know. So there's a lot of things here and there which Tox probably expected. He did use the common routes, like I said earlier. So it was a little bit surprising, really. Not only did he do it once or twice, but he did it on numerous occasions, which is quite unlike Tox, I'd say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Toxic, though, has got one more shot at securing himself a map win, which of course comes with a tasty $150 to work with as well. In case you're just tuning in, we have gotten rid of the point system from Season 1 of the Quake Pro League, and it's all about cold, hard cash. $150 for a win, $50 for a loss, so even if you can't quite put the score out there, you are still walking away with a pretty nice payday for playing some Quake. So Toxic, he's got a good incentive to still clear his mind, get himself seeded again, and just take it wherever it goes for this final map of the series.
That's right, as well as Av3k having one of the best hairstyles in Europe, he could be here for a nice huge chunk of change as well from the side of things, depending on if he takes his third map as well. And like I mentioned earlier, look at that LG, 47%. That's unreal. It doesn't matter the size of the champion, but if it's medium or light and you've got an LG of that accuracy, that magnitude, that is ridiculous, and it's a tall order to at least try and challenge that in any way. But Av3k was just putting on the pressure as much as he could every single time on spawn. Maybe Tox shouldn't have taken the same routes every time on spawn, but hopefully he'll learn his lesson as we go into the third map.
Yeah, that LG was just absolutely filthy. We saw it like get better and better throughout the first map, throughout Ruins, just culminate into some just basically 100% accuracy fights and engagements for Av3k, and he just kind of carried that over into the second map. Again, not as good as it was at the beginning as it was at the end, so he really just needed a bit of time to warm up, but it just kept getting better and better. And as you mentioned, 47% LG, that's the kind of thing that people will look at and they say, okay, well, that's not bad at all if you're playing clutch. But he's not playing clutch. He's playing a Doomslayer, right? He's playing a decent, medium-sized champion with a lot of mobility. So, of course, that is quite the achievement for Av3k.
Yeah, even in the 40s in terms of percentage against any champion, even if it's heavy champions, at least just showing, you know, an at least average level consistency with that LG. But as you can see here, the final map will be on Awoken. The first was very close. 6-5 in favor of Av3k, and as we saw, Tox was actually up 6-3 at one stage, but it went on the other end of the stick in favor of Av3k. 26-10, a little bit more one-sided. We didn't actually expect that nonetheless, but the third and final map will be on Awoken. And how do you feel like this is going to play out here, Flea?
I mean, the champion picks are Toxic is playing the Visor, if I'm not mistaken, whereas Av3k is running the Ranger. So Toxic definitely going for the information that could really help him out and help kickstart that aim up into the high gears again, right? Knowing where your opponent is, lining up that railgun shot beforehand, predicting their trajectory to whip out that LG could really help Toxic out this time around. But on the other hand, Av3k, using the orb on this map, there's a lot of sneaky places where you can use it. You can use it next to the hole in the wall, down at the heavy, and you can even just blast straight through the teleporter in that center area of the map. So Toxic is gonna have to be ready to be rushed at pretty much any given time. He has to anticipate these super aggressive plays that Av3k is known for even more this time around.
Fourth match of the day, and this is going to be the final map between these two juggernauts to see who's actually going to come out on top. Currently, Av3k is up 2-0, but we'll see if Tox can take a map win, help him out a little bit, keep it more of a respectable score. Already, first OK rocket, not too much damage, but shows the map presence and managed to keep that top mid control. And he's literally delayed that Mega so much, but it doesn't matter anyway, as Av3k saw him grab it. You can see there some of the rockets are coming in. And see exactly where he's going to go with that piercing sight. Av3k's already looking to go for that light, but it gets caught off guard just a tad. And Tox could maybe finish him off, but decides to back away, get the health orb, and realizes that it's probably best to prioritize the healing rather than pushing for the frag. But he's taking so much damage from Av3k with those rockets top mid, and Tox is just playing this very smart, very safe. Knows the Mega's going to be up any second as he's about to pick that up. Oh! And that was so close. Both of them available, but Tox being very risky there, being very aggressive, hoping Av3k repeats. But as you can see, Av3k decided not to play that game and back away and prioritize the heavy as he gauges up onto that rail. And finally, Av3k cleans up after a minute and a half of play. 1-0 now in favor of Av3k.
I don't even want to know how close that was. Toxic just jumped onto that with... He was railable as he jumped, and then the moment he picked it up, he was knocked right back down to 60 points of health. So that must have been excruciatingly close, as Av3k gets himself another frag on the board, hunting for Tox, gets a really good read right there. He's even gonna leave the heavy up for a moment. Gotta be careful. Doesn't lose out on it, but I think he knows that if Toxic jumps for it, this is a death sentence. Toxic, you should not have been there at all. And these are those kinds of plays that make you shake your head, and we've seen quite a few of those come out of Toxic. You should not engage for that. You don't have the stack, you don't have the weaponry to take the fight. Even if you drop on it, you don't have a rail, you don't have an LG, you manage to secure it. Av3k just sits back and pummels you from a longer distance. So Toxic should not have gone for that one. Now Av3k, look at the rails, out comes the orb as well. Toxic, as we discussed, has to be ready for the rush. He turned around on time, but just didn't have the stack to work with anymore.
It's a real shame. Some facepalm moments from Tox, but it's still early days yet, only just under 3 minutes in. Av3k 4-0 up in the lead. And oh, that rocket's caught him off guard and it's taken a fair bit of damage here, but the stacks are still quite similar. Lucky for Tox, managed to take the health orb and the light. That's not going to help him anyway, and you can see he's continuing that destruction with the LG. He's going to caught him off guard again, even if he picks up that heavy, but you see there Tox just barely manages to survive. Lucky for him, Av3k missed a couple of shots, but there's the LG, because Tox was trying to heal up a little bit more, taking those two health orbs on the side, but that's not going to help him in any way, which is a real shame. Just not that it was a bad engagement, it was just bad luck, the fact that they both took the same path. But Av3k is going to see if he can at least get that rail off. Didn't really get the opportunity, but this could be his one chance to extend this lead again. The LG comes through. Will he about to finish up? His rockets are out, but he gets the rail anyway and decides to leave him, pick up the light, pick up the health orb. Could predict that he's going to come through. Yes, he does. Tox surely has a back off here. He doesn't. And Av3k extends his lead further, 7-0 already here, Flea, and it's only just been about 4 minutes.
Toxic just putting himself in these situations he absolutely shouldn't be in. Like, why does he push when all he has is the heavy nail gun and you know that Av3k has GLG at that distance? It just doesn't work 9 times out of 10, and now he's here again. What is he expecting to gain from that? Av3k is just gonna pick up the heavy, he's gonna outstack you tremendously, and with the way that Av3k has been aiming, Av3k right now sitting again at over 40% LG, 42 at this very moment, so you can't just take these kinds of fights, you're not going to come out on top.
Yeah, even his rail's at 50% and he's done 500 more damage than Tox, which clearly means that Av3k has had a lot more map presence in comparison and a lot more positioning as well. And don't get me wrong, Av3k's only on 37 HP, surely he's not going to go for this. He's going to try and get away anyway, very lucky. But then again, he needed to try and get some kind of heal, managed to get the 75 from the health officer, light arm as well, but it's just too little too late. He hasn't done enough damage as he was coming back through, and Tox gets that first frag on the board. He's still got 5 minutes left, but Tox needs to be absolutely on point. He can not give Av3k any chance and put a lot of pressure onto him. I think that could be a bit asked, but he does have to stack to do it.
But this is the issue, right? toxjq, yeah, he just got himself a frag. Congratulations, well done, it was beautifully played, but he had to sacrifice 8 frags to make it happen. Finally, he gets the kill, he secures a heavy, and he manages to take down Av3k. But at what cost? It is not worth it. Now he does secure himself the Mega, doesn't have a rockets. LG, risky at this range, does come out on top. toxjq, of course, knows his way around that weapon. He still has a shot, but as you said, he needs to play Sublime. He can do it, you know it, I know it, chat knows it. Now he just has to make it happen as well.
Tox still trying to make something of this. He has 4 minutes left to try and get these 8 frags. Can he do it? Probably unlikely, but only a very few people can, and Tox is definitely one of them, as he's got a great first rocket. The Mega is still up. Av3k took his time nicely getting that, but a fantastic rail as a combo to try and finish things up. But this is his opportunity. He's going to have to take some very risky engagements here, even if he's at a disadvantageous situation, which is what he's planning to do here. The heavy is up. He needs to let him get that item. But look at that, though. Av3k still playing very aggressively just to keep Tox at bay, not to give him too much momentum. Tribolt comes in still, but Tox, look at the stack. He can't fight this. I know there's some possibility, but even then, there's some risks you've got to take. That is definitely not one of them. And the stack again from Av3k, just taking that Mega. Not looking too good. Av3k's more than anything looking to increase his lead rather than let Tox catch up. And now we've only got 3 minutes and 10 left. It's not looking good for Tox right now.
Rockets again, solid. Can he land to rail as well? toxjq so early, he's 10 seconds early. And Av3k lands the rail at long last. I think Tox just completely lost track of when the item was supposed to spawn. It was just set up far too soon. And Av3k knew it. Av3k took advantage of it. He said, sure, you can stay, you can fight. I know you're expecting the Mega to spawn any moment, but it's not going to. He used that to his advantage. Now Av3k fumbling the weapons a bit, and toxjq, the homing rocket, heat-seeking missile pulls through at the end. Nice little shot right there. Still, he needs time, Lethal, and he doesn't have it.
He definitely does, and not now. 10 frag difference between both of these players. 2 minutes and 15 left. It's not looking good here for Tox. He's trying to do everything he can. Av3k looking to go for the 20 frag threshold like Razy was earlier. But Tox still doing a good job just trying to keep him back, do a bit of damage here and there. But I feel like ever since that second map, Tox has kind of lost his confidence in his gun skill in comparison to Av3k. Av3k is really hot right now. He's not really giving him much room or for error or margin for error, shall we say. And it's been quite difficult for Tox. Everywhere he goes, every time he tries to force out an engagement, it's not been looking too good. Yeah, sure, he gets a frag there, but it's way too little too late. As Tox now is kind of trying to find anything he can do, but it looks like it could be a 3-0 here for Av3k.
Beautiful orb right there, just barely making it onto the edge. toxjq wasn't even expecting that until it was almost done. So Av3k stringing together yet another frag. toxjq still taking these fights, still getting himself some frags, but just 10 frags in barely a minute is just not going to work out in his favor. And I fully agree with what you said. It almost feels like Tox, he expended his endurance in map 1, and then afterwards he's just been letting himself get caught up into I guess the aggression, just wanting to just constantly pressure and hurt his opponent even when he was in no shape or form to do so. And it allowed Av3k to really run away with the scoreline, first on Corrupted Keep and now on Awoken. Just the same look at that LG though, toxjq showing that he still has some signs of life in him. But it'll be far too little too late. Av3k, endpoint Av3k, is going to secure himself a 3-0 victory once again. Well done.
Yeah, that was a fantastic first match between both of these players. It was kept so close, but these last two have been a little bit one-sided, which is a real shame. I kind of feel like Tox lost a bit of confidence in his gun skill, I feel like, in terms of his aiming, what he wants to do. And you even saw earlier, I remember one of the challenges Tox forced out, trying to go for that heavy, is the fact that Av3k, they both had the LG out, but then again, all of a sudden, Tox decided to switch weapons. He didn't really feel, you know, at ease, you could say, which is a little bit of a surprise there, because that's not the kind of Tox we know. I mentioned before that, you know, if you haven't got the gun skill to follow up, the movement won't follow either, and we saw that from there. But even though it was a 16-7 scoreline in favour of Av3k, there's only just under 200 damage difference in comparison.
Yeah, indeed, toxjq definitely held his own in that regard, but he was just outplayed when it came to the positional and mainly the strategic plays. Av3k, very dominant, using the right weapons time and time again, whereas toxjq, too aggressive, just going after his opponent without the right resources, weapons, or stack to work with. And Av3k just took merciless advantage of that, because that's the story that the damage alone doesn't tell. If you go in for a fight and you deal 100 damage, but your opponent deals 120 and they get the frag just before mega spawns, just before heavy spawns, it doesn't matter how much damage you did. They are looking mighty fine once again, and they've gotten another one up on you on the board, and I think that toxjq just fell for that a few times too many. Congratulations to Endpoint though, they are going to be happy once again with this performance. Av3k, beautiful hair, beautiful player, and what a tremendous performance.
Indeed, Av3k was a very dominating performance in those last two maps. The first one was a great comeback from him on Ruins. Some Ruins, I'm not surprised Av3k's done that a few times before. But let's be real here, you know, like Av3k, I think, if I remember rightly, took down CNZ off stream. So already, not only that, it's the fact he's got a 3-0 against Tox, so he should be looking very healthy on the leaderboard, competing with the likes of Razy and Wenger, who've also got the first win, and Razy got his second win today too. But as you can see here, you know, 48 frags total in terms of the contribution of all three maps. You can see 67 items taken total, but 39% accuracy with the LG overall on all three maps is very good and incredible.
Yeah, absolutely, especially because there were no heavy champions in play, so not an easy target to hit whatsoever. Av3k definitely held his own, outplayed Tox, and I think that hurts a lot of the Tox fans out there. I think everybody loves Tox, right? The Swedish Terminator, he's a persona when it comes to Quake, a veteran. He's been around so long and he can do so much. You see these glimpses of brilliance whenever he plays, but then there's just some parts that crumble when it comes to strategy and positioning going into some of these fights. So if Tox can work on that a bit, he can definitely be a top competitor once again. Still, this time he's off to a rough start to Season 2.
I don't know anyone who doesn't like Tox. I like him, everyone loves him. It's just a shame that he has his on and off form moments, which is a bit of a shame, really. Maybe it's just not his day today, and Av3k was just absolutely on form, which is an understatement. So, well played to Av3k in that series. That's the fourth series all done and dusted here in the Quake Pro League, and we'll be up with our fifth series coming up between Nosfer and the Hang. So don't go anywhere, as we're back in a few.